Black Widow came out a few months ago. I know I'm a bit late to the party, but I think that it's still worth talking about. Black Widow falls right into the just okay list of MCU films. It takes place in the interim between Civil War and Infinity War, focusing solely on Natasha, who is sort of dragged into a situation that relates to her past as a super spy. Now, to be candid, in a way this film feels like a cash grab because Civil War was 5 years ago. This does not continue the ongoing MCU narrative. It's very much a side story that resembles more of the Disney Plus shows that the MCU has been doing as of late, as opposed to a standalone adventure. So it feels somewhat regressive. Also, Natasha died in Endgame, so as you're watching it, it just doesn't feel like this movie has stakes that matter. It's something that the filmmakers felt like had to happen based on Black Widow's popularity in the MCU, as opposed to something that needed to happen. Also, Natasha was more interesting and had the most development in Endgame, so how do you top laying her life down for the good of the team and the universe? You really can't. The film isn't bad by any stretch, it's simply just an okay film. It's your standard action blockbuster, but I did have an okay time watching it, mostly because we know Natasha so well at this point that it feels good watching her have a chance to shine by herself. Unfortunately, Scarlett Johansson's performance is often overshadowed by better performances, which is not good. I really like the scene early on when Natasha is on the run and her friend asks her if she's okay and she says she's better on her own. It's a contrast to what is revealed in Infinity War and Endgame. The Avengers were the family she's longed for since the pseudo family she had as a kid. And seeing Natasha live on her own on the run was cool since we haven't ever seen her on her own before. She's always been a side character, whether it be Iron Man, Captain America, etc. And most of the time, Natasha's action scenes in the past have been pretty good, but here they're just not that engaging. Much of the action was quite unbelievable at times, even for someone like Natasha. There's a moment early on when Natasha and Yelena fall from a building, and in the real world, she'd definitely have a broken leg, a cracked rib, or a broken arm at the very least. Speaking of action, let's talk about Taskmaster, the quote-unquote villain of the film. I guess Dreykov is more the villain, but Taskmaster is the more marketed villain of the film. She's terrible. Yes, it's cool that she can mimic her enemies' fight tactics, but I've seen this thing done a lot better, like how Wolverine fought a younger, stronger clone of himself in Logan. Unfortunately, we know nothing about Taskmaster. Her reveal and overall presence in the film is very underwhelming. Taskmaster could have been a really cool villain, but here, her inclusion feels like a wasted opportunity. I think this film should have really explored the well-known Budapest mission referenced by Hawkeye and Natasha in the first Avengers film and in Endgame. That mission has just been built up for years. We only get a minor flashback here, which has some real morally gray context, but it's merely a flashback. This should have been the bulk of the film. Natasha attempts to kill Dreykov, even though it would mean killing his young daughter as collateral damage, Dreykov being the man who forced her into the Red Room as a kid, but she doesn't really seem to be that affected by it. The consequences of her actions are so quickly brushed to the side. It's like the film felt it needed to reference Budapest, but didn't really care enough to give us any real insight on it or impact of it. But this film does have some redeeming aspects to it. I think Yelena was one of the better parts of the film. She's a super spy like Natasha, and the two play off each other quite sincerely. She also has some of the funniest lines in the movie. I hope to see her more in the future of the MCU, and with the end credits scene, this is very likely, because it's revealed that Yelena is told that Hawkeye was responsible for Natasha's death. She's most likely going to appear in Hawkeye's upcoming show, so I am excited for that. Now, while on the subject, the family moments in the film are among the best parts of it. Natasha, Yelena, Evie, and David Harbour pose as a normal family living in Ohio until they get involved in some dark shit involving S.H.I.E.L.D., Evie being a Black Widow like Natasha and Yelena, and Harbour being a super soldier. That scene of them eating dinner, the banter between them as they go on the mission to destroy Dreykov and free the Red Room women are so good. The typical Marvel humor is present, but it didn't really get annoying like it usually does. All in all, I do think that any fan of the MCU should watch this movie. While it doesn't supply the emotions like Endgame, isn't as well written as Winter Soldier, and isn't as gleefully enjoyable as the Guardians of the Galaxy films, I didn't find myself not enjoying the ride that this movie took me on, to my surprise. It's a decent entry in the MCU that will hold me over until the next Phase 4 films, and I don't think this film was trying to be anything more than that. It knew that it wasn't going to be groundbreaking or anything. It's more so giving Black Widow her own solo project since she became one of the most beloved characters in the MCU, especially after Endgame. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'd be more than appreciative if you did. Have a great day, and I will see y'all next week. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.